T.S. Eliot said, if you aren't in over your head, how do you know how tall you are? And I think this is a really evocative description of what it means to fully engage with one's art, because we usually think of being in over one's head as a negative thing. So I thought it was quite thought-provoking in terms of thinking about it, what one is truly capable of. And to me, it doesn't seem like a reckless act or an unconscious act. It's a way of recognizing that one has to leap into the metaphorical void sometimes. You said you don't use painting to express yourself, but in order to make discoveries. I'm just wondering, as part of that process, do you find yourself often in over your head with your work?
Yeah, I mean, the discomfort of having gone too far, of being out in a limb, that a little branch that you should never have stepped there, because everything that you know or you're familiar with or your areas of expertise are challenged or completely not useful anymore. I think that is the territory of art. Before that, when you're safe, when you know things, when you understand how to make something good, then you're in the territory of an art activity, but not art itself. I think art requires for you to be in the territory of the unknown, the familiar, and where you are, chances are that you're just going to really fail and not being able to put things together as you hope you would. And there, in that kind of risk, is that the possibility of art happens. And I think, so it's very, very important, I think, to always go too far, farther than you thought you should. You know, if you were going to be reasonable with good judgment, you would never go that far. And that's precisely what art ought to go.
You've spoken about not getting too comfortable with your work, and if you are, then you shake things up. I'm wondering if you see a difference between feeling comfortable and finding peace or truth within yourself. I'm wondering if that distinction is necessary, so one isn't just shaking things up for the sake of it.
I mean, shaking things up for the sake of it is actually quite comfortable, because you're not really placed at risk. You're just kind of like you're either a provocateur, or you are some sort of entertainer of sorts. But I think through discomfort where everything that you have known, everything that you think of yourself to be, is now a question mark. It's no longer of any use, maybe, or for little use, where your foundation for your toolkit of sorts is now kind of useless. You're doing a task for which a usual toolkit is no longer useful. That kind of discomfort is important and critical to do something that surprises you in the deepest way. But shaking things up in a wacky way, or sort of a trivial way, is actually quite comfortable. And I think that there's a tendency sometimes in art and in our students to be all pose and opposition. You know, the pose of the provocateur, the pose of the crazy person, and quite often the most interesting and most surprising part of these people is actually themselves and the whole creation they have made. But the work itself is quite safe. Even though it seems wacky, it is quite predictable. You can see where everything comes from, even if it's trying to be out of the box. The box is always hovering like a spirit of every choice that was made.
You've had quite a few different studios. I'm wondering what the studio means for you and whether it feels a transient space while you're occupying it.
No, it never feels a transient space, even if I move around. It always feels like a very, very permanent space, even if I only occupy it for a little bit. I think of a studio as some sort of incubator of the right ideas. I construct the studios not based on things I like or affectations or so on. I construct a studio to teach me how to work, to teach me how to live life better. So in some ways, the studio becomes somewhat like a ruler that I use to measure my efforts. So the studio, I never wanted to feel like, like I like this cookie, so I'm gonna make a studio that I like. That kind of liking something beforehand and you make it the way you like it. I like a little thing like this, I like a little thing like that. No. I want to create a studio that very much feels not like a cookie, but like a ruler. You make it here, and if I look at the studio the right way, I'll be able to gauge the quality of my effort. The studio will remind me constantly if I'm coming short of what I set out to do or not. So the architecture, the spaces are designed to be a constant confrontation with the aspirations that I like to measure myself against.
That's interesting. You have painted high up on the walls near the ceiling in your studio the phrase, "Keep your actions faithful." To what are you being faithful?
It's a Buddhist idea that your thoughts and your actions and your words will be faithful to one another. In general in life, it's very easy to think one way and act another and say something else. But in the art world, that challenge is in some ways magnified, because there's a tendency in the art world for people to say they stand for something when in fact they stand for something else. And the activities of the studio not being the place that you raise yourself to a higher standard, but rather one in which you make more compromises out of fear, out of insecurity, than perhaps any other place in your life. So by having that there physically as a reminder, and I have other kinds of reminders throughout the studio, I catch it sometimes with the corner of my eye, sometimes, and I didn't really even realize it's there, but it's always hovering with the choices I'm making in the work and around the work, and the kind of things that I'm trying to pursue with the work. And it's a difficult standard to maintain, but I can't imagine a better standard in the day-to-day activities to the studio.